A desperate foolishness. The crops failed. I sold my children. I remember. I led them, 2 boys and a girl, along weary paths until we reached a place where the mudflats are populated with crabs and gulls. For 250 years I have listened to the many-toned chorus, and occasionally, among the sundry restless voices, I have discovered those of my own children, my Nash, my Martha, my Travis, their lives fractured, sinking hopeful roots into difficult soil. For 250 years, I have longed to tell them, children, I am your father, I love you, I understand. There are no paths in water, no signposts, there is no return. To a land trampled by the muddy boots of others, to a people encouraged to war among themselves, to a father consumed with guilt. You are beyond, broken off, like limbs from a tree, but not lost, for you carry within your bodies the seeds of new trees, sinking your hopeful roots into difficult soil. And I, who spurned you, can blame only myself for your present, for my present misery. For 250 years, I've waited patiently for the wind to rise on the far bank of the river, for the drum to pound across the water, for the chorus to swell. Only then, if I listen closely, can I rediscover my lost children, a brief, painful communion, a desperate foolishness. The crops failed, I sold my children. Hi everyone, welcome back to Strokes on Paper with Noma. Diving into Crossing the River by Caryl Phillips, a hauntingly poetic novel that stitches together the stories of displaced Africans across centuries, 250 years to be precise. This isn't your average historical fiction. It's a fragmented tapestry of pain, of survival and longing. It's told with sparse lyrical prose that echoes long after the last page. And Phillips is a master of doing this. Let's get into it. Apologies. Crossing the River is a journey through displacement. It was published in 1993, so we're revisiting it. It isn't a linear narrative, so it's more like a chorus. And at the heart of this novel are 3 characters, Nash, Martha, and Travis, and each of them represents a different node in the African diaspora. They are introduced by this mysterious, unnamed narrator, a grieving African father who sold his children into slavery. And that act alone echoes across generations. And what Phillips does is uses it as a haunting metaphor for the forced separation endured through colonialism and transatlantic slave trade. So let's meet these characters, these 3 children of Africa. And they exist in 3 different time periods: Southern plantation in America, England in the 20th century, World War II, I think. So Nash is the missionary son. He is a freed former slave who goes to Liberia as a missionary. And at first, he's an image of assimilation. His letters to Edward, his former enslaver, is full of religious fervor and British politeness. But as time goes on, what we see in these letters is his growing disillusionment. He feels abandoned, unheard. The letters are not being replied. And this shows the irony of colonial freedom. He's free in name, but still bound to the approval of his enslavers. Liberia, which was meant to be a land of hope, becomes a graveyard of expectations. Nash's fate, spoiler alert, is a quiet death, almost unnoticed. He dies not from violence, not from anything else that you would think, but from abandonment. And that's what makes it devastating. That empire didn't kill him directly. It just stopped caring, and that was enough to be unseen, to die. For Martha, the wandering mother, her story, I think, is the most harrowing. She's an elderly black woman escaping slavery in the American South. And we meet her as she walks, stumbles, crawls towards Kansas,
hoping to reunite with her daughter. We witness the slow erosion of her body, but not her will. So she's strong-willed, but her body is breaking, failing her. And Phillips doesn't rush her death. He lets us feel the cold of the barn she dies in, the quiet, the isolation. Martha's journey is about longing and maternal grief. She is crossing the river in more ways than one, through leaving behind her body, her past, and the brutal world that has never been kind to her. And for Travis, the modern son, what we see is a Black American GI stationed in England during the Second World War. His story intersects with a white British woman's, Joyce, who falls in love with him. Travis is tender, he's cautious and hopeful, and their love feels like a glimpse of something different, something magical, until tragedy sets in, as it does. Philip uses Travis's fate to show that the legacy of racial violence doesn't actually vanish with time. It just wears new clothes. And even in the 20th century, love can't shield Black people from systemic erasure, because this is what happens. As Joyce narrates this section in the first person, and her voice is remarkably complex, not a simple savior figure or villain. She's just a woman caught in history's waves. She's a woman who was in love, who's grieving the loss of that love, the lack of agency for that love. And each of these stories in Crossing the River is a standalone tragedy, because it's a tragic tapestry, and together they form something greater, a meditation on displacement, on Black identity, on diaspora, on fractured psyches, generational trauma. And binding these tales, the voice of this father, who we find out, this sorrowful godlike presence, mourning his children lost to history, and we find out he's not their parent literally, but he represents the African continent, and his grief is universal, is endless, and it's reminiscent of the question I get all the time, about people saying, didn't Africans, used to sell themselves into slavery before transatlantic slavery, that kind of thing. This novel is symbolic on many levels. There's a literal river, slave ships crossing the Atlantic. There's a biblical river, Jordan, signifying death and deliverance. And then there's the metaphorical river, time, separation, diaspora. So that's why, the river is symbolic. And Phillips refuses to give us closure. There's no reunion, no triumphant return. But what he gives us is more powerful. It's memory sewn into the fabric of, our clothes. The stories we carry every day because no one else will. We continue to carry it. It's transgenerational, right? And it's powerful. And Phillips didn't write Crossing the River to entertain, to overflog history. He wrote it to grieve, to remember, to haunt. And he succeeds, because it's a novel that demands rereading, reflection, especially in the present times, and above all, respect. If you've read this book, please let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you haven't, well, now might be a great time to read it, alongside my students who didn't find it funny. There's a quiet power in the way that Phillips writes that no summary can fully capture. So until next time, keep reading and keep thinking, and let's continue to honor these stories that we don't want to lose, and please remember to like, to share and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.